What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some film from Jaxon Smith and Njigba out of his OTA workouts and his rookie minicamp workouts. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are traveling out to 5 more states across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. Our next 3 camps in Austin, Seattle, and Newark are completely sold out, but then we'll be heading out to Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California, where we have available spots. So if you guys are local to those 2 states or cities and would like to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have some of you YouTube guys out there. Let's get back to this video. So now, first route we're going to be looking at here is just a simple stop route from Njigba, but Jaxon Smith does a great job of decelerating at the top of the route and displaying good hip drop mechanics, which all great wide receivers need to have to get in and out of their breaks smoothly. So let's watch this full speed, then we'll break down the form. So he comes off the ball, pushing vertical, selling fade, able to drop those hips and stop fairly quickly on the dime with little to no wasted motion. So we're going to look at some drills from him later in this video and some other routes, some other catching drills that he does, and hopefully this will teach you guys some of the good habits that you want to get into when you practice. So obviously, this is, t-shirt and shorts. They're just wearing helmets. There's no pads. There's no defense on the field. So you don't want to look at a whole lot in terms of, you don't want to judge this a whole lot because a lot of things are different when you get a defender in front of you. However, the mechanics at the top of the break is something that all young wide receivers should try to emphasize. All wide receivers at the college level, youth level, high school level should try to emphasize. So when you guys are pushing vertical on a route, what does it actually mean to sell vertical? Right? So every single time, whether you got a DB who's in press coverage, a DB in zone coverage, my mindset is to try to get him to open up his hips, turn and run with me, and think we are running a 9, aka a fade. So there are a couple things that you have to do while trying to sell a fade. You, number one, have to run with good body language. So you see how Jaxon Smith, when he comes off the ball here, he's not raising up. He keeps the exact same pad level, aka body language, all the way to the break point. He trusts his hips to be able to slow down. One of the main mistakes that young wide receivers make is because they're so focused on dropping their hips, having this explosive hip drop, this violent hip drop at the break, that right before the break point, they will raise their chest up and then drop down. They raise up so they can drop down more or further, if you will, but that's just an indicator, especially if you have a DB who's man-to-man right on your hip and his eyes are watching your hips. When he sees your hips raise, he's going to start to slow down. That's what we call an indicator. So you have to make sure that we have good body language. You should be able to take a picture of your body language at 5 yards and then a picture of your body language right at the break point, and it should be relatively similar. It shouldn't be higher. It definitely shouldn't be lower. So you have to be able to do that. And Jaxon Smith does a great job of doing that. And these are the details that you have to emphasize while you are in practice, because there is no such thing as a little thing, fellas. All the time people talk about, hey, you got to do the little things. Hey, you got to do the little things right. The details, devil's in the details. There is no such thing as a little thing. All of these things add up to the big picture, which is running an explosive route where you accelerate in, then accelerate out. So now, what are some other things that go with selling vertical? Your stride length, right? So when he comes off the ball, I want you to pay attention to his stride. He is taking full strides all the way until the break point. He is attacking the break point. That is what you need to do. That's what gets a DB to open up his hips, gets a DB to backpedal, and threatens a DB. So many wide receivers 2 yards before the break point, maybe because they're not counting their steps, maybe they're looking down at a landmark, they will start to chop their stride, because that slows them down. Now, slowing yourself down makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to cut on a dime because you're not running as hard. But at the same time, it doesn't sell the route enough. So we have to make sure we have good body language and we have good strides. And then obviously you want to run hard. You want to run with some speed. All 3 of those things go into selling vertical. Now, the whole reason I bring all that up is because you need to have great hip drop mechanics, a violent drop of your hip to be able to decelerate while you're running with that kind of speed and selling your routes. So when you guys get into the break, there are 2 specific things that you want to think of. I tell my wide receivers when they drop into a break, number 1, there is a string attached to your chin and you are trying to literally pull that string and touch your chin to your knee, because that will put you in a good explosive position. Because I think everybody knows that getting into a break, you want to drop your hips, right? You have to get low. You have to make your center of gravity low so you can make a sharp change of direction. Nobody has ever been able to run full speed and just plant, stand super tall, and get out of the break sharply. There's always a little bit of a drift. There's always extra steps, which again will allow a DB to recover on your route. So to make that sharp cut, we have to get low. But when you sit down, you don't want your chest to be straight up in the air. You don't don't want to be sitting back and have all this weight be on your heels, because then you're not going to have any explosion out of the break. Running routes is all about three specific things: selling fade, creating energy at the break point, and then accelerating out of the break point. So if I don't put myself into a good explosive position when I drop, aka chin to knee, aka sitting my butt down and being violent about it, I'm not going to be able to stop on a dime or accelerate out of the break, which is going to help me widen from a DB. So fellas, like we said, all of those details matter. When you're training, when you're doing drills, when you're running routes versus air, those details will add up to the big picture. Because I'm going to tell you this right now. All these things that I'm discussing, I guarantee you Smith is probably thinking about a few things like his stride, his body language. Obviously, I'm not in his head, so I don't know what he's thinking. But I know this for a fact. When he puts the pads on and he's in a live game, he's not thinking about anything. He's thinking about the play, the route he has to run, and doing his job. So you guys repping out the detail work will translate to an actual live game scenario when you don't have to think about it. It'll be an automated habit. But the devil is in the details with this. There is no such thing as a little thing. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great example of him decelerating, dropping those hips, and getting in and out of the break. So now this drill he's doing with his wide receiver coach here, I want to talk about this because this will be great for any wide receiver out there who maybe struggles to get off the ball fast, right? So, or they struggle popping up out of their stance. We get a lot of questions about that, like, hey coach, I'm very slow off the ball. I pop up out of my stance, I lose explosion. What can I do to work on this? And this is a great drill to work on that. So his receiver coach, or maybe this is a speed coach that they have, is putting hands on on Jaxon Smith's shoulders. He's falling forward, and what's going to happen is his coach is going to let go of him, and he has to accelerate right up into this route. Now, I'm going to play the route. Really, he doesn't get a ball. It's really not the most realistic route situation, but I want to pay attention to the beginning part of this drill because this is something you can absolutely do if you want to get faster off the ball. Because so many wide receivers, the snap will be called, and they'll stand up, or the snap will be called and they'll be up tall already, then they have to dip down. And all of that is wasted motion and wasted time out of off the line, out of your stance. So we have to make sure that we are comfortable staying in an explosive position, an explosive stance, and when that ball is snapped, I am snatching my leg up off the ball and I am driving. And that's obviously with your back foot. That's the first foot that comes out of the stance. I don't think I need to break that down for anybody. I think everybody knows how to come out of a receiver stance. However, the reason why this drill is important and why it's important to have an explosive step is because at the next level, collegiate level, NFL level, everything is so timing based. You're running all of your routes usually when it's zone coverage off of steps. So what do I mean by steps? So let's pay attention to this route that Njigba runs here. So he comes off and he breaks on his third outside step. So his outside foot, let's say the quarterback's over here, his outside foot would be his right foot. This break is off of his third outside. So he lets him go, he falls. That's his first outside step. We don't count that one. That's his second outside step. We don't count this one. Then that's his third outside step. That's the step that decelerates him and slows him down. So why is it important? Because if you guys have a slow get off, you guys have a choppy and shortened stride get off, and you're not bursting off the ball, you will not get to the depth that is required on your third outside step. That's why running routes off of steps is so timing based, but the quarterback also expects you to be at a specific depth. He needs you at a certain spot on the route at a specific time. And if we have a weak get off the ball, I'm not going to be able to do that. So this showcases that this is maybe something that he needs to work on. This is something that he's working on with his coach, getting off the ball a little faster and getting up into his route with a little more speed. Great drill for all you young wide receivers out there to help you with speed off that line. So now, one of the best traits of Jaxon Smith, I'm sure all of you guys saw that big catch that he made. I want to say it was the Rose Bowl. I'm not exactly sure what bowl game it was, where it was that great over-the-shoulder catch, great concentration, toe tap catch, and all of that, fellas, comes from practice work. That comes from the details, right? Doing the little things right in practice all add up to the big picture where it is an automated habit. When you're a wide receiver in a game, 100% guarantee you're not thinking about looking the ball in, tracking the ball. It's an automated habit, but you guys have to think about these things when it's a practice setting. When it is t-shirt and shorts, a lot of people say like, oh, you don't want to overthink it, right? you got to think about something while you're practicing or else you're not getting better. So this is a great example of working on a good catching habit when it's an over-the-shoulder pass. So this ball's thrown over the shoulder. Again, t-shirt and shorts, don't need to put much weight on it. But you see how he's not lackadaisical with the catch. He is watching that thing hit his hands. He is seeing the ball make contact with his hands. A good thing that I'll tell my wide receivers that seems to process for them is I tell them to pretend that your eyes are like a digital camera. And when that ball hits your hands, you want to take a photo, like a freeze frame portrait of that football when it makes contact with your hands. So you have to look it all the way in. You have to see it make contact with your hands. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to think about that. Some people might have different trigger words that process for them to get them to look the ball all the way in. But working on this specific habit translates to a live game. It's automated. You're going to look it in because you've done it so many dang times. And I know I don't have to explain that to a lot of you, but a lot of people always want the quick fix, the quick answer to things. Hey, how can I improve my hands in the least amount of time possible without doing the least amount of work? That has never been a recipe for success, fellas. You have to do the little things like this, just to looking the ball in, taking that picture, running routes the correct way, doing the little drills that will all translate to where you actually see improvement and you actually improve in a game, to where you don't have to think about it and you don't overthink it. So this is a great example of that. I just wanted to point this out because, again, these guys are great for a reason. All these guys that are even at this practice are outstanding football players. Like, you got to understand how hard it is to get to the point that they're all at. I know it's just a rookie camp. I know it's a mini camp. I know it's OTAs. Some people in training camp, they get cut after the first week. Just to make it to training camp, you have to be a great football player because you're playing with the best of the best, and they're that way for a reason because they do those little things. There is no such thing as a little thing, and that's what I want to get across to you. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to train with us in 2 more states this year, we have 2 camps with available spots. These spots will run out probably by the end of May. So Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles, California. Check out that very first link in the description below if you would like to attend our camp there. I'll see you guys next time.